Welcome to Dog Moms Do Business,
the podcast where two lifelong friends find sisterhood in business, life, and being crazy millennial dog moms. We're your hosts, Ellen Broen
and Jasmine Jonte. And today's episode is all about
Miss Juniper Olive.
That's right.
So we have some news to share.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So about, well, I'll say on April 26th, Juniper left her body. Mm-hmm. And
crossed the rainbow bridge, as people say.
She did. She crossed it. And she's now in the land of, I'm just thinking her, surrounded by tennis balls and bacon.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And sunshines and bugs and grass.
Yes.
Yeah. So we thought we'd come in and share, because I know we've done episodes in the past about, you know, parenting aging dogs and that whole journey. So just wanted to share this story. Do you want to share about like making the decision? You know, I feel like there's some elements to it in terms of knowing when the time is right, because the timing of it all was an ongoing, like,
always,
conundrum of how do you know when it's time? And then, you know, the experience itself of letting go and that whole thing, and any wisdom to share with the people, I guess.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, I see reels on my Instagram all the time of pit bull influencers, dog influencers, and they talk about, you know you're a dog mom when you look at your dog and just cry because you know someday they're going to pass and the dog is like happy and wagging his tail and like a year old, and like, but then what's coming. And so I have felt that like my entire journey with June is like knowing and feeling into the very realness of the fact that one day she will not be, her soul will not be in her body any longer. And I think the fact that I lived with that awareness so long made me so present with her. And I think it actually made the moment of and the days after so much easier. Like I think it's, when you live in that presence with a being, not just toward the end, but throughout the whole life. There's
no regrets.
Yeah, it's a lot of that, just like no regrets feeling. I mean, I don't want to say I have zero regrets. There's definitely things that I think about and like, oh, I could have done that better. And like, oh, I wish I would have known. And like all these things in hindsight that you can only know in hindsight.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of gratitude. There's a lot of joy. There's a lot of, just positivity and peace with everything because I lived with that energy for so long. Yeah.
Yeah. And I appreciate the language that you're using. It seems very intentionally about like her soul leaving her body rather than other ways you could say it.
Yep.
Want to share what kind of influences where you got that, where you embodied that?
Yeah, I think that it comes from my pranic healing background and training. It's this idea that, we are souls in human form, in canine form, in whatever form we happen to be in. And the soul doesn't die. Like souls don't die. They just evolve and grow, and then you go out of your body and you're back up with the rest of your soul, this incarnated part of you, it's back up there in the cloud. And then it comes back down. And my personal belief is that it reincarnates, and there's a lot in that whole thing, but that's the very high level. And so I think a lot of people really, really struggle with death and dying when they don't believe in an afterlife. And I understand that it's really, it would be damn near impossible, I think, for anyone who didn't have some kind of connection or feeling, experience of the other worlds to believe in that. But I personally have had experiences. And so it's been very much a confirmation for me that I don't think that I think our bodies die, but our souls do not.
Yeah.
And so,
And there are means that we have access to communicating with those souls, you also believe?
Yes. I think that they're in a different like dimension, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not in this time and space reality on this timeline anymore. But everything is energy. And so we can still communicate with that.
Speaking of which, you have communicated with Miss Junie.
Yeah. So I actually scheduled a session with our animal communicator like a week before Junie passed, I want to say. And when I scheduled it, I remember scheduling it thinking, I don't know if I'm going to use this to help inform how to move through her passing or how to process it. I definitely scheduled it like, I don't actually know.
Yeah.
But she only had like bookings 3 weeks out. And that ended up being about 2 weeks after Junie left. So, and yeah, I mean, it was just essentially like a confirmation that my timing was right, that I, you know, read her right, that, you know, June acknowledged me for some things that I've shifted in my life over this year, really, 2024, with her, the decline of her body. And, you know, it was just kind of more of like a validation and a bit of a reconnection as well, but I don't ever really feel like I have disconnected from her. Like
You still talk to her.
I still talk to her. I still feel her around. There are definitely moments in the house where I feel a void. And it's not usually for long, because then something will happen and it will be like, oh, she's just right here. She just was gone for a minute, but she's actually here. So, you know, I think being energetic and being in touch with energy and, you know, just kind of honing that skill over years definitely helps.
Yeah, totally.
With that.
Yeah.
But also Juniper has always been kind of this wise and all-knowing creature. She's not, you know, everyone's dog is special. Every dog is really special. And every dog and every human is just on a different place of their evolution. And I think that Juniper is particularly evolved and like gifted in that. And you know, I say that myself, and I say that like, this isn't me, this is her, and this is what she showed me, but it's also what she showed pretty much every other person she ever met. Was like, she definitely has some dog like qualities. And you know, you could put her in a room with like a mastermind room, and she knew exactly what people needed when they needed it. She went always right to the right person. So she was very in touch and in tune and evolved in her own way. So I think that from my side and from her side, it's just easier for us to kind of feel like energetically we're always connected.
Well, so taking it a step back, what did you, in terms of the journey that led you to her final days?
Yeah.
What happened? What did you learn in the process?
Yeah. So a small little bit of backstory. In 2020, Juniper had an acute kidney injury. And the theory is that she probably ingested something. We never could figure out what it was, but it was probably something she picked up on a walk while we were living in California, and it caused kidney failure pretty much overnight. She was in the hospital during COVID. This is July 2020, summer 2020. She's in the vet's clinic. We ended up, I called vet A thinking it was vet A, but it was actually vet B. And so we drove to vet A, but they were like, we don't have you on the schedule. And I looked it up and it's like, oh, I'm at this other vet. I didn't even mean to go here. Okay, fine, whatever. We have an appointment. Let's go. And this vet office ended up saving her life. She was in the hospital for, I think, 10 days on consistent fluids. She was about a 50-pound dog. She put on 30 pounds of water weight. Wow. She was blown up like a blimp, and essentially the only thing they could do is try and figure out what the toxin was and flush. And so that's what we did. And I think it was like maybe day 8, 9. I'm not totally sure, but I had a friend of mine who I knew through the Tony Robbins community. He was a vet, emergency vet out of Florida. I called him, asked him for help. He was liaison. He's like a liaison with my vet here in Carter in California at the time. They ended up having some mutual connection, so they instantaneously bonded, and they were like in it to win it together. Yay. So like that was a God thing. And then when I got a call from our vet in California, and she's like, hey, listen, like, I think it's time to bring her home. Like, I think it's time for her to have her last day with you guys. Like, it's been 7 days of this. Like, she's still not looking good. I think maybe it was less. It just feels like forever.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And this was around 4:30. And I was waiting on a phone call from my friend in Florida. He called me at 4. We were going to pick her up at 5. He called me at 4:45 and was like, listen, Jasmine, just give her one more night. Like, one more night on fluids. Like, I've seen it make a difference. And I'm like, okay. So I called the vet back. Hey, we're not coming in. Keep her on fluids one more night. The next day she turned around.
Wow.
Like, had she called me 15 minutes later, I would not have gotten the next, like, 4 years with her. So I think that also, like, helped me when 2 years ago, that was like 4 years ago. 2 years ago, she got diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, which probably was affected by the fact she had a acute kidney injury, 2 years beforehand.
Right.
And it really helped me, like, see all this extra time as a gift, even if she wasn't 100% in the healthiest body she could be.
So that event definitely put things into perspective about, like, this could happen in any way, in any moment, and so this is on gifted time at this point.
Right.
New perspective.
Yeah. I mean, it just took what I had felt always, which was like, you never know, to like an extreme. Maybe even too extreme at times, because when she got diagnosed with the chronic kidney disease 2 years ago, I started to get very, like, I didn't want to leave her with other people. I didn't want to leave her at home. She had to come travel with us everywhere. Like, I couldn't be out for more than a certain amount of hours. Like, I had to get home to Juniper. Like, it was not like obsessive, but it was definitely this heightened sense of anxiety around, like, what could happen, when's it gonna happen. And then when she got the diagnosis, then it got even worse. And I really had to work on, like, not letting my anxiety about her leaving affect her. We had to have a lot of, which I think is, like, a really good thing to consider is actually, and we've talked about this with Sadie, like, talk to your dog and tell them not to take your shit on as their own, because naturally that's a lot of times what they're here to do. And so, like, we all have emotions, we all have things, just like we have kids, and it's like, okay, this is mommy stuff, like, don't take on mommy stuff. Same thing with your dog. This is mommy stuff. Don't take on mommy stuff. And I think that when Brad and I started doing that, like, there was definitely a shift in her. But yeah, 2 years ago she got diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. It was very much like, this is a slow progression, and the vet was like, here's some things you can do. And I was like, great, I'm going to do those, and what else can I do?
Yeah.
And she kind of gave me, like, a diagnosis, or a prognosis? Like, she's like, this is how long she's going to live. What's that called?
I think that's prognosis.
Okay. So she gave me that, and I was like, I respect your opinion, and I do not accept it.
Yeah. Was this your same vet that I met? Different vet?
This was the same vet you met. Yeah.
Wow.
And she's great. I mean, she's incredible at what she does. She really knows her stuff. And, like, when you're in that Western medicine world, you're bred to think in probabilities and what you've seen in the past, and taking those stories of the animals that you've seen before you and apply that to this animal here. And I learned this from Joseph McClendon at a UPW. He was, his mom got diagnosed with cancer, and she basically told the doctor, you're not going to tell her she has cancer, and I do not accept your opinion. And the doc was like, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like she has 6 months to live, and she lived for like 3 or 4 years. Like, I don't remember, but I remember being like, wow, that's like a big, it's a big difference. Because if you tell someone they have 6 months, they start to believe they have 6 months.
Yeah.
And she told me, a year, maybe a year and a half, and Junie lived for 2.5 years. So I don't know where I was going with that, but she got diagnosed with this. And what's awesome is she didn't show any signs of it until like 2024. Yeah. Like until late last year. Like, she lived with it for 2 years. We did at-home dog food, homemade dog food. We did IV fluids at home. We did chiropractic treatments every week. I was like,
you put her well-being.
I went to bat for her.
Yeah.
And she largely was like a happy-go-lucky, pretty hanging out dog for a couple years.
Even emotion code too. That was in the last couple of
we
years.
did
too.
emotion code. Yeah, we did a lot of stuff. And then, this, once the new year turned, we had the wedding set in March, and she just started to quickly decline. Like, she started to lose her bowels. She started to, we need to go out multiple times in the middle of the night. She wasn't really walking like before, you'd kind of have to drag her on the leash versus her pulling you down the block.
Yeah, she would walk you.
That's right. Yep. And it just kind of, these kinds of symptoms, she stopped eating like she normally would. She got a lot pickier. And over time, we got to the wedding and she was like kind of doing okay. Not great, but like she did the wedding. She ate at the wedding. And then the week after the wedding, she picked back up, and it was like this kind of weird like burst of energy for a week. And I was like, wow, maybe it was just like the stress of the wedding coming up, and it really affected her, and she was feeling my energy and my stress, and it just and then it was three, and then after that pickup week, she just kind of declined for a couple weeks, and she passed on a Friday. On the Thursday, I noticed that she kept falling. So she would like go outside, she would take 2-3 steps and then just fall. And she'd kind of get herself up, take a couple steps, and then just fall. And like she couldn't keep up on her 4 legs. And part of it was she wouldn't eat. There was a lot of weight loss. She lost a lot of muscle mass. Her balance was starting to go. And it was like, like we can't even go to the park and like sniff around. We can't go for a walk. She can't even really go to the bathroom by herself without falling over. And it was just like, I think this might be the right time.
And then you called me. I came over. Is that when we got Chick-fil-A, or was that a different time?
That was a different time.
She ate a lot of Chick-fil-A
in the last few months because she wouldn't eat anything else. So
yeah. And then you had decided well before this that you wanted an at-home experience. So how was that? Yeah,
it was really good. I think a lot of people don't realize this is a possibility, but you can have, especially if it's this kind of a situation where it's not emergent, it's like just a slow decline of life and they stop eating or they give you the sign or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was, I mean, it's like you set an appointment online, like you book it through a Calendly link. It's fucking
so weird.
It's so weird. But they come in and we had a vet and we had his assistant, and they, kind of walk you through the process on the phone ahead of time, and they walk you through the process again when you're there, and they give something to relax. And so she just kind of closes her eyes and just is real high and feeling really good.
Like morphine kind of vibes.
Like, oh yeah, like, give me more of this, right?
Yeah.
And she kind of gets those like, dopey look about her, and then they give her the second shot, which, closes down all the systems, the bodily systems. And it was, and they gave us time in between, so it was always our choice. And yeah, I mean, super professional. They did a great job. They were good with us. They knew how to handle the situation, and that's their whole business. And so I think that I've had dogs pass in the hospital before. We've had a dog pass at home just kind of out of the blue before.
Yeah.
And I think that this definitely there was a lot of peace around it. I could do healing work on her ahead of time. I could clear the space. I could do everything that I know how to do in the energetics world, so that, her soul could leave quickly and process quickly.
Peacefully.
Yeah. So that was really great. Like, I totally recommend that. Weird thing to recommend, but...
Like, if for the layperson, how would they do that? How would they help that processing?
I think it's important to know that, like, we did give her a day and a half, right? Like, I think a lot of people are like, as soon as you know, I just want it to be over. I'm just going to schedule it today. I'm just going to get it. But for me, I was like, I'm happy to sit with the discomfort for another 36 hours so that she can go smell the grass at Ellen's house, so that she can like see Grace and be with a baby for a minute, so she can, you know, sleep with me one last time, so that she can have 2 filet mignons. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was happy to sit with the discomfort of being in the between making the decision and then having it happen, to allow her to really like receive that. And also, you know, I took time, and Brad took time to kind of have moments with her one-on-one where, you know, I just laid with her and I just told her what she means to me, and like my favorite experiences with her. And I think, you know, that was really special for both of us, and it really kind of gave me some closure, so that when it happened, it was like, I was okay. Like, I was not okay. I'm still not okay. I'm still very much not okay. And yet it was also like, I think it was as okay as I could be. Yeah. And coming to the decision, you know, like we probably made the decision at noon on Thursday. I started really like thinking about it early in the morning on Thursday. And I for weeks, because she had been declining after the wedding, I was just praying like, God, make it obvious, make it obvious, make it obvious. That was my prayer. And that Thursday morning, I was still like, it isn't fucking obvious. I still don't know, because there is absolutely, I have friends who have this belief that like, you just wait until the animal passes naturally. Like you wouldn't put down a human. So why are you going to put down an animal? And I completely respect that, and I understand it. And I'm also like, but they didn't come into this being able to speak and have that option within their free will. We as humans do. And, that Thursday morning, I called Alicia, who's one of my friends here, and she had gone through something similar with her dog, I don't know, like 4 years ago maybe. And she's like, listen, Jasmine, like, I hear this with all the love in the world. Like, I know that you want to make it obvious, and maybe Junie just like can't make it obvious to you right now, and you're trying, like, you need to pick back up that responsibility of like being the person who needs to make this choice. And I think that's what I needed to hear, to be like, yeah, I'm kind of putting it on her
to show
me, when really it's like, I don't know if she would ever be able to like show me enough.
She doesn't want to show you.
She doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't want to go. Like, she wants, of course she wants to, you know, be here with us. And yet I also know she was ready to go too.
And the having spoken to a few other close people in my life who've gone through this process, like they all said the same thing, that once the dog was not able to walk comfortably from point A to point B across a room, you know, without tumbling or falling or bumping into something or whatever, losing balance, like that tends to be kind of the sign of like, they can't even walk. Like, quality of life is not there.
And I have other people tell me that for them it was eating, you know, like when the dog stopped eating. But I think with Juniper, like, I just don't know.
That story, like, that was kind of a miraculous turnaround too, because you and I went to the vet before your wedding. By like almost a month, I want to say. And you were asking like, is this time? Is this time?
Is this what she's showing me?
Because we went and we took her, and again, your vet was very informative, loving, helpful, like ran some tests and looked at her, and she was just like, you know, if she's not eating, like that tends to be the sign. It's like the first sign. But like what we can try is putting her on this medicine Entice, seeing if her appetite changes. And if it doesn't in the next few days, then it is time. And if it does, then see you later, you know, like enjoy. And luckily, you know, that medicine did a huge help to her.
Yeah, that was an appetite stimulant. So that really helped her eat. And then, you know, but I don't think, you could never put a steak in front of Juniper and she wouldn't eat it. She's always just had such a really strong appetite. I think it would be really difficult for her, because that's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for her to turn her nose up at like, okay, that's what I said to her. I was like, as soon as you tell me you don't want steak, I know it's time. Like, I was telling her, this is the sign you need to give me. And she never did. And I think it's just because it was never going to happen.
Girlfriend loves steak.
Like, I want the steak, but I'm giving the steak. Yeah. So that was amazing. And then also just throughout the whole like that Thursday, Friday decision making window, I called the vet. She called me back and kind of like talked me through the fact that based on what she's seeing and the signs that she has from Juniper and her blood work and the progression of it, like it makes sense. And then even I got in touch with my animal communicator and she said, Juniper has been on my mind. She's like been popping in to me for the last day or so, which was also another indication to me that like, cause I said to June, like, if you need to talk, like go ping KO and KO will
let me know.
Come talk to me. And so, and that's exactly what happened. So I think that there was a few things there that, you know, kind of gave me a little bit of just validation and confirmation. It's a very odd thing to have, you know, your dog pass because it's like you're I've never had to feel such big feelings at the same time, like simultaneously, like both so incredibly grateful that she was here and also so fucking like distraught at the fact that I now have to figure out how to do life without her, because I adopted her when I was 23. So
you've basically adulted the entire time with
I
her.
have adulted with her. And I, especially like with the last year or so much of my time has been IVing Junie, making Junie's food, making sure Junie gets to the park. I mean, I've been sleeping on the couch since January because she had to go outside multiple times a night. My entire team helped me switch my entire calendar around so that I could be, when she had her peak energy, I could be available to go and help take her out and go to the park during her peak energy. Like, we have moved to travel. I have said no to masterminds that I have paid thousands of dollars for so that I can be home with her. Like, it really was very much all consuming with my time. And it was, so that first like week afterward, I was like, what the fuck do I do with myself?
Who am I?
Who am I? And because at the same time, I have so much time and I have so little capacity for anything. But you know, I just think giving yourself grace and, you know, like when she finally went, it was like this feeling of like, I'm so sad and also job well done.
Yeah.
Because I did my best to do right by her no matter what.
Yeah, you did. And
so
you didn't just do your best, you did the best. You were an incredible mom to her.
Oh, thank you.
And so you're a month out now. Anything new or shifting on the like kind of adjustment to life now?
Yeah, I think that the weeks, it was kind of easy for me to get back into the routine of being okay during the week because, you know, I've got a busy job. I do a lot of work. So filling my time there. And then I've just also started like working out more. And so I kind of fill my evenings with like going to classes and doing stuff. So I've just been purely just trying to keep myself busy. The weekends have been really hard. And it's just because there's so much space and that is the time that I would occupy her. I also don't have an excuse for why I can't go places. So I'm like on the weekend, I'm like, damn, I don't want to do that, but I can't say I gotta stay home with my dog.
Babies are also good for that. So,
so you know, it's been okay. It's been all right. I went back home. I saw my family, and that was good because my parents have a pity Kip, so Kip helped me heal a little bit. And yeah, it's just, I think it's just always an evolution and a process, and I decided not to tell anyone immediately simply because as soon as I did, I was gonna have all this energy come back at me, and I wasn't quite ready for that. And I say this like with humility in that Juniper has hundreds of fans, and she's affected a lot of people at all the business events that we go to. And I have Flight Club, which is our mastermind, next weekend, a weekend and a half, 2 weeks away. And I know I'm going to have to field literally 50 to 100 people on, hey, where's Juniper? So, you know, that I just decided to take some time and get okay with it myself. And now it's okay. We can let the world know, and I can have the onslaught of energy, and, I'll be okay.
So you're choosing the in-person delivery over the announcement publicly?
Up until now, I think that, with this podcast episode, I will probably make it public, because as hard as it is, as easy as it is to have the one-on-one conversations at this point, like, I'm kind of tired of having them.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a lot of energetic output to say it over and over and over again and be with someone's in the moment reaction, rather than like kind of putting it out there and letting people have their time to process and then reaching out to you in their ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably time by the time this episode comes out.
It's time. It's time. Yeah. But she's the best girl in the history of dogs, in my opinion. And my opinion is right. And
your opinion is fact.
My opinion is fact. It is. And I hope this episode helps another dog mom who's either going through the death and dying process, or knows it's coming in many years later, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And I also think that it's very odd that there's just been, I feel like, a lot of stories of people who are like, as soon as I tell them, they're like, oh my God, you're like the third person I've talked to in 2 weeks. That something about, I don't know, this
happens
season.
In seasons, yeah.
There's been a season. One of my favorite dog influencers, Lilybug, which Lilybug and Junebug, how cute, right? Anyway, she crossed the Rainbow Bridge like last week, and I was like, dang, that is just wild. So, anyway, that's it, I guess.
I feel like I just think about the gifts that not only that dogs bring to our lives when they're alive, but like the process of grieving a lost best friend like Junie. I think about, children and the process of losing animals and that we love, and the process of losing, anybody that we love in our lives, and the gifts that come from that experience. And there are times where I curse the universe for making dogs' lifespans, so very short compared to ours. But at the same time, the capacity of like unconditional love that we learn from dogs is inhuman. It's unhuman. Like, it's just not a level that humans can often reach in this lifetime or ever. So they model so many incredible things for us. And then they also model in their passing, like how we can be with our loved ones, down the line as well. And ourselves, it's a spiritual gift, I think dogs are. And Junie especially.
Dog is God spelled backwards, baby.
I love that.
There's no mistake. I think, June was like, I always call her my ultimate expansion agent, because she just called me to be so much more, and she believed in me, but she was also super detached.
Yep.
And, I think I'll forever be paying it forward. Like what she gave to me. And I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to try. So.
Well, we love you, Junie.
We do.
And thank you for listening, everybody. Please, if you feel compelled to share your stories with us, we would absolutely love to hear it. You can find us at dogmomsdobusiness@gmail.com. At least for now, until we potentially rebrand on the line.
Right. That's right.
But thank you, Mother Puppers. And we'll see you next week.
Smooch your pooch.
Yes.
Toodles.